Welcome back. It's been a while, I know it's since last study, but I'm hoping that you've been experiencing some unexpected blessings in your life these last few weeks from listening and hopefully studying the Bible a little bit to help yourself to get to where you want to go. But today I really was going to veer off into a different avenue, and I'm going to call this fear of moving on or fear of moving forward. There's a lot of times we get stuck in a situation that we're in, be it in work, relational, and we're afraid to make a move to get out of our comfort zone or the zone that we're in that we're very unhappy in because of the unknown. And we are so afraid of the unknown. And we have dreams of things that we would like to do, but we just think that they're unattainable, especially as you get older. When you're younger, you think you can conquer the world, but as you age, you start to get a little more apprehensive about making changes in your life. But the reality is that what we're afraid of is we're afraid of what to expect if we do make the move. So we retreat and we stay in our own familiar or what we've grown used to circumstances, either they be good or bad, because we fear moving out. And that is something that the Lord really doesn't want us to do. We did not come to live in this life to be afraid. In fact, in the Bible, I've never counted it myself, that there's 365 times in the Bible that says, do not fear. And I think that's ironic because there's 365 days in the year. So each day, do not fear something because that's when the enemy has you where he wants you. But many people today, especially women, stay in very toxic or abusive relationships because they feel trapped and they don't see any way out. And they don't have enough faith in themselves. And if they didn't know God, they don't even know they have faith in God or believe that they have what it takes to make it on their own. So they stay in abusive relationships. I know I worked in a shelter. I volunteered. I did Bible studies for over 10 years in Orange County with women that were left abandoned relationships and the horror stories I heard. And then when they finally went to the House of Hope and went through the program, or it was a 2-year program, and they started getting strong again and their confidence was coming back, the perpetrator would come back in their life because he would see that they are finally strong again and they went through all of the how they totally denigrate you and make you feel like you're useless. They see you become strong again, and then they want to come back and say, "Oh, I love you, and I'll never do that," only to go back to it, and it's worse than it was at the beginning. And then they couldn't come back to the household because that was one of the stipulations. If you didn't go through the entire program, if you left, you couldn't come back. And that was heart wrenching for me because some of these women were so close to just making it on their own and getting their, it was just so heart wrenching to me because, and I know for myself, I've had to start over like we know. I've had 5 marriages and I know how difficult it is to make that decision to leave, especially if you have children. But I can also be a testament that God does have our backs and he will give you the strength to do it. In fact, it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm doing these videos because I really feel that the Lord has helped me for over 20 some years. He's still helping me. I've been alone now for 20 years, 22 years. I've been not in a relationship. And I can testify that what I went through and God got me through it was so much strengthening and it's given me the ability to be on my own. I'm 50, and well, it's been 24 years actually, because now I'm 74. So 24 years I've been alone now. And did I date? Yeah, I dated a couple of people, but to get into a relationship, no, I'm damaged goods, and I know I am. And it's not that I'm damaged that I can't be alone with somebody. It's just that I'm just too old, and I just don't want to even take the chance that to get into a relationship that's not going to end well. I'm too old. But I hope to help people that are younger or even my age have hope and have the strength to step out and see what God can do. Because it is amazing what he can do for your life. And the things that you dreamed of that you've lost sight of that you think can never happen, you can. You can, and you probably would appreciate it more now because you're a little bit older than you were when you were 20 or 30. When I started reading the Bible, I was so surprised to see so many of my unanswered questions answered. And they weren't about religion. I mean, I wondered why the sun would come out and the moon. And I just had all these questions about stuff. Why do people die? And, why does the fall come and then the summer comes? And it's just like all, and it was just all part of creation. And it just answered so many of those kind of questions to me. But when I was reading through the Bible, because I read it like a book from Genesis all the way to Revelations. So when I got into the New Testament, which was probably a year into it, or maybe even a little longer, I came into the book of Hebrews. And I remember I was only 22 years old, so this time I probably was 23. And I read that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I thought, I didn't even really know who Jesus was at this point in time. I gave my life to him, but I was young. I was a new Christian, and God, and you just, oh yeah, I'm Christian. I know Jesus, yeah. But I really didn't know Jesus. Now at 74, I know Jesus like a personal friend. Like he's sitting here next to me sometimes talking because I hear him and I'm in tune with him. Sometimes I'm not, but sometimes I really am. But that sentence really, it was an amazing statement for me to read. But it was the catalyst of what started to build the foundation of my faith. Because to me, nobody ever stayed the same in my life. My dad left. You'd have boyfriends or your friends, even your friends, girlfriends, they betray you. They're nice at the beginning and things happen. People, jealousies start coming in. And no one's ever the same. People change all the time. So it's hard to trust somebody because you don't know, you're acclimated to the fact that people change. So when I read this statement that God is the same yesterday, today, forever, I just couldn't believe it. But yet it gave me something within myself. That's the point maybe for me that I started thinking, you know what? I'm willing to trust this because God is not a liar. I mean, I've learned these things. There's verses in the Bible, what I'm saying now. They're not in this study, but he's not a man that he should lie. When he tells you something, it's true. We have to learn to trust that it's true because in interactions with people, what people say, we learned early on, just because they say it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. So we are always on the cusp of, is it true? Is it not true? That was my whole life. I was always on that wind shear factor, the fact of, well, I can handle this, emotionally unavailable people, because you never really know how somebody is. So I was always attracted to that unemotional person because that's what I was familiar with. Didn't make it right. And how stupid was I? It took me 30 years to figure it out, from 20 to 50. And God probably said on my fifth marriage, he probably thought, well, she finally got it. I mean, how thick-headed was I? I just couldn't put the pieces together as to why is this not working for me? But it was because of my choices. But God didn't just throw me off to the side and say, well, this one's useless. I'm not even going to bother with her. So when you start to trust God, or you read something that just really jumped off the page like that did to me, it really helped me. And that's why I thought this study today would be really good for people to realize that God is truthful and he is there to help us. I lost track of where I was going here. People seem to be nice, like I was saying. And when people do start changing, like when you do make a friend, or especially when it's the opposite sex and you're trying to get into, or you're in a relationship and it's going from one stage to the next, you start seeing different aspects of their, like they'll have outbursts of anger. Or they said something at one time and then all of a sudden they say it a few months or 6 months later and it's opposite of what they said the first time. And I know a lot of you aren't like me. I'm like a radar. I can remember what people say. Don't ask me. I think I've been hurt so much that somebody could tell me something in January of 1999 and in February of 2020, I can remember what they said January of 99. I just have that ability because I have just so been damaged that I really listen and hear what people say. So that is something that my radar goes on up. I call it radar. static, but sometimes it's just something in your stomach that you think, boy, something's not right here. It's just a gut instinct. Go with it. I used to rationalize away things for so many years, and that was to my demise. I should not have done that, but I did. For what reasons? I don't know. Maybe it's because I really thought I was in love with the person. Maybe it was I was just tired of the fighting of stuff. I don't know what it was. I've never been a weak person, but I maybe just I just gave in to circumstances sometimes because I just got tired of having failed relationships. But when we're falling in love with somebody, we need to keep our eyes wide open and be aware of how they talk, what they do, how they treat people, how they treat you, if they get irritable, and whatever they do. If it's unwarranted and it's like, and as it goes on, it starts happening more and more, be aware of that. Don't dismiss it. I used to dismiss stuff like that. Oh, I know they have problems and they had a bad childhood and that made rational reasoning as to why they were doing that. No, that's the Holy Spirit in you. If you've asked Christ to come into your life, that is a discerning spirit. Get out of it before it goes any further, because all you're going to do is postpone the inevitable, and you're probably going to get into more problems staying than if you would have left. You'll get married like I did once. I got married a gambler. And in my heart, I kind of knew that I shouldn't get married. I didn't know why, but I had a restless spirit. Well, come to find out, when I was 40, I lost everything because I married a gambler. He was taking money out of my checking account. He was hawking my jewelry. Oh my God, I can't even tell you the stories. And I stayed married to him 3 more years because I did not want to get another divorce. He was my 4th marriage. And I lost everything. And on top of that, $24,000 in debt to the IRS because he didn't pay his taxes. And I signed a joint return. I could go and tell you stories. And had I listened to my instincts, I would have not gotten married and I would have not had to go through that problem. Satan is always looking for the perfect time for us to drop our defenses so that he can step in and disguise himself as an angel, that he can step in and disguise himself as an answer to our prayers that we've been praying, or changing our circumstances. We've been praying, we want something to change, and then all of a sudden, Mr. Hollywood or whatever, or Mrs. Hollywood, whatever, comes into our life, and we think, oh my, this is like an answer to my prayer. My dream's going to come true. Satan knows that when you drop your guard, like myself, when I got married to Walt, I didn't need to get married to Walt, but I just wanted to be married because I had a daughter. I wanted her to have a family. Wrong. All I did was cause more grief for my daughter, had another person leave her life, have another end of another divorce. So it didn't work out the way I wanted it to do. My stupidity, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it, but I wanted my daughter to have a family, and I did the very opposite of that. And Satan knew it, and he came in and he destroyed. I lost every single thing financially, emotionally, and that's when I came to learn about spiritual warfare. I was so angry at him. He liked horse racing, and he took thousands of dollars, and just put it on a horse. I mean, it just denigrated me as a human being. Like, you care more about a horse than you do me and my daughter. I mean, I was devastated. And when Lord opened up the doors for me to learn warfare, it is because of my wrong choices, and God let me get to the bottom. And I walked away from God at that point in time in my life too. I walked away from the Lord 4 years. 3 of them I was with Walt. And then the 4th year I was learning about warfare. And God let me go. But boy, you come back crawling and bloody, because he's not going to make himself be a part of your life if you don't want him to be. And that's when I went looked for the book, and it was called, if you've heard my videos before, it was called The Bondage Breaker by Neil Anderson. One of the best books I ever read. It started my life, 30 some years ago, on this trek of what I'm trying to teach and help other people learn. But in the end, Satan, like I said, he's looking for the perfect time to drop your defenses, and that your ending circumstances end up destroying what's left of you instead of making it be the person, Mr. Charming or Mrs. Charming, that you thought they were going to be. And in 2 Corinthians, Paul writes about this exact situation. And no wonder that we get deceived. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. When Satan first comes into your life, or evil person coming into your life, or someone that's got a hidden agenda, they seem like it's too good to be true. And trust me, if it feels like it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. So that's how he comes in. He comes in like some people in construction, they go dangling a carrot, like, put all these beautiful things in front of you, only to find that he's wanting to destroy you. And at the end, it tells you here, therefore, it's not surprising that even his servants disguise themselves as righteousness, whose end shall be according to their deeds. They've come out to destroy you, and they will. Like Walt. I get confused on the names. But Walt was the gambler, and he came in. He loved children. He went to SC. He worked on the quarterback of SC. I mean, he just had all the bells and whistles as to what he was, and totally opposite of what I went around it, because I was always around people in construction. So here comes Satan in a different way, and I thought, oh, well, this is different. It's not going to be the same. Oh, it was the worst. And in Matthew, Jesus went into some detail regarding the very scenario, teaching the crowds how to sense the motives of people and how you are getting to the people you're getting to know. Jesus knew himself that not all people are who they say or pretend to be. So he gives us a warning also to watch and pay attention to how people talk and act. And if you feel any uneasiness or that static I was talking about, get away from it. Don't get entangled before it gets too late. Just leave. It's better to leave on the onset of a relationship or a job or whatever than to keep in it and get entangled in it and get in a web where you never can get out. I only wish that when I was 30, not 50, that I could have saved myself a lot of emotional and financial devastation. But at least I did finally learn my lesson. Took me all those years, from 20 to 50, to learn what I'm trying to teach here. And from 50 to 70, now 74, I can't tell you how much more peace I've had in my life without the upheavals of the enemy coming in, because I don't let him in anymore. I'm very aware of how he operates. Not to say it doesn't happen still to me. I still fight depression, but the Lord helps me a lot now. When we're caught in a vicious cycle of emotional turmoil or abuse, we want out so badly, yet we're so confused and scared, and a lot of the time so unsure of our own strength to step out and start something new, because it's been so long since you could even think of finding peace and happiness. Sometimes it's just so long of a period that it's like it was a dream that you could ever have, like a little child. You ask a child and they say, oh, I'm going to be the president, or I'm going to be a doctor. They have these high expectations because they haven't been hurt. The world is their oyster shell. They can do anything, and they believe they can do anything. We are not born to believe we can't. Life teaches us that we can't. People say what we can't do or can do. Your own parents sometimes say you'll never amount to anything, or you're just like your uncle, or you're just like your dad, or we say all kinds of negative undertone that people don't realize the devastating effect that has on a child. And as a child, you don't even realize it. You just always remember someone saying, well, I'm not going to amount to anything, or I can't do that, or I don't get straight A's, so I'm stupid. Or I've heard parents call their kids, look at your brother so-and-so, look how smart he is, and then look at you. And those are remarks that just kill you to the inside. But when you're so young, you don't really realize that, but yet it's that tape that plays in your mind even as an adult, and you can't get past it. That's why in the Bible, Paul says, when you become a Christian, you ask God, you become a new creature. You have a new mind, you have a new start, and God forgives you of all your past, and that you can meditate on His Word that says that you are wonderfully and beautifully made, and that you're the apple of His eye, and that He has good things for you, that He has He has so many blessings for you. But you don't hear those things. You hear God, He's the God of, oh, thou shalt not do this, or thou shalt not do that. Excuse me. But, God has things he wants for us. He wants us to have a happy life. He didn't come for us to be miserable and unhappy. What kind of a testimony of a God would that be if you're always sad or being abused? That's not what God came to set us free from. He set us free from bondages. And Satan is the bondage holder, not Jesus. He's the peace person. He comes to set you free. And in 1 John 4:6, there's a verse in the Bible that says, greater is he who is in you than he that is in the world. And if you're familiar with these studies that we've been going through, that when we say greater is he that is in you, who's in us is God. The Holy Spirit is in us. And we are stronger than he that is in the world. We have power over Satan. Satan was defeated at the cross. But we as Christians and people of the church and the people, you need to learn how to tap into that. And the only way that we're ever going to tap into that power that the Holy Spirit dwells us with is to read, study, ask, and seek and knock. And God will give it to us. In James 1, I'm not sure, it's James 1 or 5 or 6, I'm not sure what verse it is. But it says, any of you who lacks wisdom, ask God, and he will give it to you in abundance. He wants you to have his wisdom and knowledge. But if you ask and you doubt that God can do it for you, it says don't even ask, because you're like the wind being tossed back and forth in the waves. You're double-minded. God cannot answer prayers to somebody that is on the fence wondering, well, can he do it? Will he do it? I'm going to ask it, but he's probably not going to do it. That's a defeating prayer. God doesn't answer those kind of prayer. You come to God and say, Lord, I need help. I want to step out of this relationship, or I want to get into a different job. I'm asking you for the strength and the courage to do that. And then go to work and be looking for another job and read the Bible, get the encouraging verses, because there's many, many encouraging verses. Joshua 4:1 or Joshua 1, it says, be of good courage and strength. I will be with you like I was with Moses. God's with us everywhere we go. Once you've asked him into your heart and you accept him as Christ, he's with you. There's nowhere you go. There's nothing that he can't do for you. He's bigger. You think of the worst scenario in your life. I just heard a pastor talking about this. Let's say this is our world and you're in it, and your world this big just feels like everything's against you. But the truth of the matter is, God is this big. He's much bigger than your world. And he is the one that orchestrates everything in your life if you go to him and ask him for his help. And I'm hoping that I know I'm talking to somebody. And I just hope that you can listen to this and really dig deep within yourself to realize that, you know what? I'm stuck, but I'm not going to be stuck anymore. Over time, we lose our self-confidence. Even if you do leave a situation when your best efforts keep running into block walls, and the Lord knows we've all done that before. That's why we retreat and stop fighting. Your fear steps in and you become more afraid of what lies ahead than what you've left behind. Just like I saw people at the House of Hope, women would leave their husbands, or their husbands kicked them out or whatever, and they came to the shelter, and they would be halfway through the program, which is a year, and they would quit, or else they would even go 1 3/4. They'd only have 3 or 4 months left, and they would quit. But my thoughts, what I think about this when I was doing this study here today, when you're on a trail to escape or to find a better job or whatever, and you go down that path and you're halfway, you've already encountered so much adversity and so many problems that you've had to overcome halfway down that road. And halfway, you start looking behind you because it's hard and you don't know if you have what it takes to go to the next half. But what people don't really realize, when you get halfway to your goal, The distance between going the full distance or going back is the same. You're going to retreat and go back to all that you've learned and forget all the strength and the encouragement you've done in yourself and knowing the Lord and fall back because you're more afraid of what lies ahead. And if people would just, this is where Satan comes in, where if you would just go, you know what? I've come this far. I'm not going back now. So you go forward, and that's when your greatest blessings start coming. All your hard work getting halfway to where you want to go, why relinquish that and not continue on to see the grand prize at the end? Not to say that it's going to be a pretty easy ride to get there to the end, but you've got God on your side. And anything that you're encountering on that road to get to where you want to be is for your benefit. It's to strengthen you. It's to learn trust, learn how to have faith in God, knowing that He will step in when you knows that you can't. Because there's even a verse, you will never be tempted more than you can handle. God will always give you a way of escape when you get to the point where you feel you just can't handle it anymore. God knows when you can handle it. He'll give you, like if you see those roads that say the height, the weight of a bridge is 10,000 pounds. God will give you 9,999.1%, but He will not give you that last 0.9% because He knows it'll break you. He will not break you, but He will get you to the point almost of breaking so that you don't give up. Perseverance is very important. Once you make your mind up, you have to go and keep going, because anybody can start something, but it's the people that finish. And then people go, boy, look how successful they are. People can look at a successful story, but let me tell you, there's not a person in this world that has made it financially or successful in any area of life that didn't struggle to get there, unless they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and that's a very small percentage. Even the Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, all of them had to go through adversity to get to where they're going. They had to go through the ridicule, people making fun of them, people thinking you're nuts, you think you got everybody. You're no different. It's just to the degree. So don't give up. That's what Satan depends on, because most people give up. He knows it. That's why there's a lot more people that are doing things for other people than being the owners of business, because some people just aren't. And it's not a bad thing, but not everybody's built to be a leader. And not everybody's built to be a laborer or a worker. It takes all of the above to make anything work. If everybody wanted to be a leader, then we would have no workers. And if everybody was a worker, we would have no leaders. So it's a balance, and we have to find where we are in that balance. And neither one of them is better than the other, because no matter how much of a leader you are, if you don't have good workers, you're not going to make it in business. And if you're good workers and you don't have a leader that can help guide you and tell you where to go and how to handle money, well, then you're not going to make it either, because we need both to make things be successful. So don't ridicule yourself that you're not whoever you're trying to be. And that's nothing. Just be you. You know you better than anybody, and you are with you no matter where you go. So like you, and everything else will fall into place. I got off course there a little bit. Philippians 3:13, brethren, this is going back to when you get halfway. Brethren, I do not regard myself as having laid hold of all of it yet, because Paul was, he wasn't an apostle, but he did go out, and anyway, we'll go past that. But one thing I do, forget what lies behind me, and I reach forward to what's going ahead. Paul was a Pharisee. He wrote more than half of the New Testament. He was well educated. He had a high standing in the religious order of the Hebrews. And when he was going to the road to Damascus to persecute the followers of Christ, he was a voice, and he was thrown off his horse and blinded. And he heard, Saul, Saul, because his name, the Hebrew name was Saul, the Roman name was Paul, same person. He goes, why are you persecuting me? And Saul said, persecuting? He goes, who are you? He goes, I'm Jesus Christ. I'm the one you're persecuting, because he thought they were going against the Jewish religion, because they were all the law of the Old Testament. And Christ died, was resurrected, and he was moving on. And he used Paul, someone that was so astute and so educated in the Jewish religion, that he turned that total thing around, what he believed, and had to learn how to be a Christian. And when he did that, he had to learn an entire new way of life. He had to learn an entire new way of thinking. So he said up there, but I haven't regarded, I don't know it all yet, but I do know one thing. I have to forget what my life was before, and I got to keep moving forward to the life I've got now, because this is what I'm called to do. So it doesn't matter who you are on the scale. When you're going to make a change in your life, it doesn't always have to be from a bad situation. It could be one of the best situations in the world, but it's the wrong way for you. And we've got to realize that just because we make a change of venue or something, not because we didn't do right by it, sometimes it's just a time to move on. Not everything stays forever. Nothing stays forever. Life is forever changing. And as you grow and your position grows, even in business, you start out as an apprentice or first labor at the beginning, then you become into management, and then you become, part of the company, and then you become the owner, or you can become the CEO of it. It's gradual pace, so you can't stay the same. Anybody that stays at the same level, you're not moving. You're just like that mouse on the wheel. You're just moving, but you're not really going anywhere. That's not what God wants for us. Paul chose to give up his position, wealth, and lifestyle to become the man God called him to be, which was to reach the Gentile world for Jesus. He was to go tell about Jesus, how he died, was raised again, and that we can be saved. His life wasn't smooth. It wasn't a smooth path, but one that was filled with suffering, beatings, being arrested, and living in dungeons. Yet while he was in prison, he was left for dead a few times. He was shipwrecked. If you read in Paul and Corinthians, his life story, oh my goodness. No, pardon me. I would have quit, and I'm pretty strong. He just went through, but he never gave up because he knew God called him to do what he was doing. And it was not a happy life. So when people say, well, you couldn't be a Christian, look at all that turmoil you're in. Trust me, Jesus Christ was God, and look at what he went through. He was crucified. People hated him. They spit on him. And he was God himself. And on the cross, he said, forgive them, Father. They do not know what they're doing. He even forgave them. So you think that you're suffering? None of us has suffered, I would venture to say, like Christ and Paul did. But going back to Paul in Philippians 4:12-13, I know how to get along with humble means, and I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned, and I would highlight that word in your Bible, the secret of being filled and going hungry, both having abundance and suffering need. And then verse 13, which I'm sure even if you're not a Christian, you've heard this verse before. It's in Jim's. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So here's Paul telling you from prison, and he knows everything he was saying. He lived high off the hog, if you want to call it that. He was in the pristine Four Seasons hotels and eating at the Ritz-Carltons all the time. He had everything going for him. And when he got that blinded on the road to Damascus, he left it all to suffer and to do what God asked him to do. And look at him, we're still reading the stories and learning from what he did when he was in prison. He wrote the epistles, which were letters to the churches, and Philippians was one of them. You can't do it alone. If you want to make that change and that move, it's hard to do it alone. But when you trust Jesus as your Savior, Matthew 28:20, he is with you. Trust him to help you to be safe in a place he has for you, chosen already for you. Like Paul, even myself, you can achieve anything. It's not an easy road, but as you keep moving forward, you will find the peace and confidence that you are looking for, and contentment. You will find peace and contentment, which is basically all that we're always looking for. We just want to have a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, go home to a house that's happy and not full of turmoil. Not to say that you're not going to have little upheavals every once in a while, but to have the peace be the more, not 80% instead of the 80% turmoil and maybe 10% peace. In Matthew 11:20-30, Jesus himself said, "Come to me, all you are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you shall find rest for your soul." And your soul is your attitude, your mind, your will, and your emotions. And Jesus is saying, come to me, you're tired. I mean, when you're tired and you've been fighting for so many years, he says, come to me. My burden is light. Come to me and learn from me. Satan will always be tempting you to go backwards. And the Lord will always be calling you to go forward to a safe and better life. If you ever wonder who's talking to you when you get confused, remember that. Satan will always want you to go backwards, and God will say, no, in me, you can go forward and you can make it. But you have to believe that, and you have to stand on that no matter what. No doubting. I've come this far, and I'm not going back. And I know for me, in my life, with my tenacity, I thought, Satan, you've been trying to take me out since I was 30. I'm 74. You're not doing it now. I've got so short a time to go now, but I stood my ground from the time I was in my late 30s or early 30s until 60. I fought all those years with the enemy and in relationships. And I just kept going through it. And look at where I am today. You might think I'm crazy. Maybe you're right. I might be delusional. I don't know. But the Lord has taken all that I've went through and learned to help other people, because I know what the road is like. And it's a hard road. But with Christ, you can do it. I would place my life on it. If you are that determined and you really want out of situations, you can do it. We can do anything we put our mind to. It's the ones that you don't when you want to give up or have an excuse to give up. Those are always easy. Lots of people like excuses. They'll make an excuse for anything. But if you have the tenacity and you have the will and the desire and you know Christ is with you, you can do anything you want. Anything. It might take longer than you thought, but you can achieve it. Jesus gave us a great illustration and warning so that we would not become victims to Satan's traps and lies. And in Matthew, it's called the Beatitudes. It's 6, 7, and 8, or 5, 6, 7, and 8. I can't remember which of the chapters, but on this one's Matthew 7, 15-18. Beware of false prophets, which you can put that in false people that come to you looking one way when they're not, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Grapes are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor figs from thistles. Are they? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a rotten tree cannot bear good fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a rotten tree produce good fruit. And when they're representing the tree here that Jesus was talking about, he always talked in parables. A tree is people. When you come up to a person and they say, oh, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, and then they turn around and you watch them and they're stealing and they're cussing and they're doing all kinds of things that you know that that's not what someone's supposed to be doing. That's called a tree that's saying one thing and is another. It's deception. It's a lie. And then if you find somebody that's doing rotten things and you know they're rotten, and then they're trying to tell you they're doing good things, and there's no fruit of that, you know they're not a good person, because a bad person cannot produce good things, nor can a good person produce bad things. They might slip up once in a while, a good person, but they don't have vengeance, and it's not their desire to hurt people. I mean, they might make wrong choices and they might have got caught up in something for a moment, but they come back to their senses, and that's what you have to be aware of. And that's what this whole study is about. Not being afraid, but also being wise. really realize what's what's going on around you with the people that you're around, and surround yourself with people that you would like to be like, that have proven their steadfastness or their integrity, that they do what they say and they say what they do. That's the kind of person you want to be around. And always try to find friends that have more and know more than you do, because that's how you learn. If you're the smartest one in your group, you're in too small of a group. You need to be around someone that you can look up to and want to learn from somebody and become a better person. If you think you're already better, then there's really not going to be a lot of help for you. Like even Jesus said, I didn't come to heal. I didn't come to help the excuse me. I did not come to heal the people that are already well. I came to heal the ones that needed help. Because all the healthy people, which was in the time the religious leaders, they thought they were above Jesus. Jesus was going to the tax gatherers, he was going to the fishermen, he was going to the low lives considered by the Pharisees. And they thought, well, look, he's going around sinners and drunkards and gluttons and this and that, because that's who he came to heal, save. You can't save somebody that already thinks they're saved or they know it all. So if that was Jesus's MO, how much more is that for us? We need to be around people that we can learn from. That's how we learn. We don't know everything. Read, study, talk to people that you respect. How did you get to your business? You talk to people, they'll be more than happy to tell you how they struggled and got to where they're going. They're happy to give you their life story. If there's one thing people like, they love to talk about themselves. So if you come up to somebody, you ask them about their life, well, they're going to sit and tell you everything. Sit down, let's have lunch and let's talk about it. Because they want to share. Also, they want to help people to get along the way. That's how it works. You learn something and you go along. It's even in the Bible to tell you, what you learn in secret, shout it on the housetops. Tell people. That's how we learn. And like me, I was a hard person to teach because I had to learn it on my own. If somebody told me the truth, you don't know what you're talking about, but I had to learn it the hard way, and they did know what they were talking about. Now, when someone's talking about what they went through and they're trying to show me something, I listen. I don't want to learn it by myself anymore. I will learn from somebody else's bad experience. I know that sounds funny, especially if you're in your 20s or teenagers, but trust me, when an older person is trying to tell you something, they're not saying it because they were getting anything out of it. They're trying to help you not make the same mistakes. And I'm going to close with this verse here. It's in James 1:2-4. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and endurance have its perfect result, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. When you finally get to your end goal of where you want to go, and you see that you went through all these trials and you were tested and it produced endurance for you because you kept moving on, you will have the perfect results of that, and it will be complete, and you will lack nothing. You may not be where you want to go, but you sure know the road to get you where you want to be. And that's God's faithfulness, and that is just the best news of the world. And I hope this was encouraging to you. And the last page of your on YouTube here, if you can stop your phone or pause it, there's a sheet there that, like always, I always have all these verses. They may not be in the entirety, but they're there that you can look them up for yourself and study them and learn from them. And I hope this was enlightening to you. I hope it was. I really feel good about this study. And I'm sorry for the time in between. But I look forward to our time together again. And until then, God bless and have a good weekend.